everyone. My name is Precious Joy, and I'm the founder of PurityIsPrecious.com. And basically, what I wanted to do today was to actually share with you exactly what PurityIsPrecious.com is about. It is about men and women that desires to be pure in their lifestyle as far as their sexuality, mentally, physically, and emotionally. To be honest with you, when I did start the website, I was going to be just targeting sexual purity only. However, I see how God has begun to shift and change the direction that He wants me to begin to go in regards to what the PurityIsPrecious.com website will be displaying and talking about. And so I just made up my mind that, hey, we're just going to roll and flow with God. Wherever He says do, wherever He says go, that's what we're going to do. And so I hope that you all are open to walk on this journey with me, but it has definitely been one that's been fulfilling and exciting in every way. And so today, God has laid on my heart, to do an actual video and to talk to you all about something that I had to master myself. And honestly, I write these blogs and they've been changing my life. I've been getting delivered. I've been getting free from them, just reading them over and over, even to myself. And so I kind of feel like God is asking me to put a face and a personality to the very things that I write and that I talk about. And so that's what this video here today is going to be about. It's going to be about you all being able to connect to me and actually know what my heart is and how much I really do desire to see people changed and, just to see people grow, especially in their purity in every way possible. And so today's reading is actually going to be about, what I'm going to be teaching on is going to be about developing a mindset that desires to be pure. Once again, that's developing a mindset that desires to be pure. And this was something that I actually had to develop within myself. I had to actually, break down some barriers and break down some walls within my life and within my emotions to be able to be one that would eventually be able to have a mindset that is pure at this particular moment. And so it's forever, changing, and it's forever evolving. But, I understand the process and the things that it takes to be able to get a mindset that's pure. And so I just want to go over some brief pointers that I discovered along the way. And so the first one that I really want to talk about is to get rid of excess baggage in your thought processes. The first point is to get rid of excess baggage in your thought process. And that is basically any thoughts that don't speak life, any thoughts that don't exude God, any thoughts that don't bring wholeness and purity to your life and to others, any unruly thoughts, anything that makes you second guess your nature or second guess the nature of others in a negative perspective, then that's something that needs to be gotten rid of. I know for me personally, I used to always struggle with thinking crazy and thinking things that was not necessarily always accurate. And one of the things about that is that always keeps you in a position of always being bound to the fact that you never fully see past what your mindset allows you to see. You're going to always be limited if you're carrying excess baggage in your mind that does not exude life, that does not exude positivity, that does not bring people or even yourself to a whole nother way of living. And so, that's anything that's negative thinking. And, you have to be careful with evil foreboding at times, because evil foreboding will always send triggers into your mindset that's saying that something is not right or something is going to happen or something is not going to measure up to what it is that you desire for it to be. And those are evil foreboding thoughts. Those things actually come to prevent you from stepping out past your expectations. Those things come to prevent you from moving forward, and it prevents you from being one with what God has called you to be one with. And so you want to actually get rid of those thoughts. Any thoughts in you that have no purpose, get rid of them, because it's not necessary. They're definitely not needed. And you want to have thoughts that only bring life and purpose into yourself and to others and to just even people that's around you. When people see you and when people have conversations with you, they should know that there is a whole nother level of authority that you walk in, because your mind is so vast and so big that it expands past what their intellect is even capable of achieving themselves. And so that's one of the ways that you start to develop to have a mindset that desires to be pure, is that you have to get rid of any excess baggage in your thought process and your thought patterns. That can be baggage from other people, and baggage from old relationships, and baggage from past hurts and past wounds. You can't continue to carry those things on with you from time to time to time. And so I would recommend, and I would definitely ask that you would begin to take inventory of what's in your thought processes, what's in your mindset, and anything that does not exude and exalt God, that's something that does not even need to be entertained or even needs to be there. So that would be the first point, which is to get rid of any excess baggage that would be in your thought process. So the next one that I wanted to talk about is the second point is going to be house thoughts that regularly petition God for more of his wisdom, love, and grace. It's one of my favorites. House thoughts that petition God for more of his love, wisdom, and his grace. It's one of my favorites because it's something that actually begins to develop the inner being of a person. And whenever your thought patterns are always one that's steady petitioning God and steady asking God to bring more and to pour more into you, you're going to find yourself actually advancing to a place where you never even thought was possible or even imaginable for yourself. And so that's one of the beautiful things about this whole thing about petitioning God for more of his love and more of his grace and more of his wisdom, more of his passion. Anything, any characteristic that God has, that's something that you want to petition for more of from him. And as I go through my day, lately I've been noticing how I find myself steady saying things like, God, I just love you. God, I ask for more of your wisdom. God, I ask for more of your grace. God, I ask that you would help me see people in the lens and in the perspective that you see them in. God, you are beautiful in all your ways. God, everything in you is perfect. Perfect me in you, God. That's how I've been lately. And I've been noticing that this thing honestly has been something that's been happening within on the inside of me unsubconsciously. And because it's been unsubconsciously, I noticed that I keep hearing this voice on the inside of me making these different decrees and making these different announcements within myself. And so then it caught my attention one day to the fact it was like something just clicked, and I was like, oh my God, that is true. God is perfect in all his ways. This God is beautiful in everything that he do. I do desire to be closer to him. I do desire to be more like him. God, please perfect me. Pour your love into me. Pour your wisdom into me. That thing clicked, and when I heard it within myself, I knew at that particular moment that I was transitioning from the old Precious that used to be very negative, that was very angry, that was very bitter, that was very resentful, to now transitioning into a Precious that is loving, a Precious that desires to be happy, a Precious that desires to be whole in every way, a Precious that wants to see people prospering in every way of their life. I desire to see this thing manifest itself in the fullness. And so that is one of the things that I had to learn how to do. And it was something that seemed to be engrafted on the inside of me, where I just began to petition God for more of his love, wisdom, and grace. And when you petition God for more of his love, wisdom, and grace, he begins to pour that thing into you, and you'll find yourself giving people grace. You'll find yourself pouring wisdom into others. You'll find yourself loving people beyond their flaws and loving people beyond what they're even deserving of. So that's one of the beautiful things about this whole thing. It's like when you petition God for more of him, his whole character, his whole being, everything that's in him is going to begin to unravel and to begin to unfold, and it's going to actually begin to put deposits on the inside of you that will cause you to be one with him in a whole nother way. It is also a protection for your thought patterns. When you begin to petition God for more of him, this thing protects your thoughts. It protects the very things that's on the inside of you, and it actually begins to block anything that would be a hindrance to who you are. It blocks anything that would be a hindrance to what you're to what's on your life that would try to come and sabotage it, because you begin to understand that God is in you, that God, everything around you, God has orchestrated it, and you will begin to understand that God is the one that has brought you to this place today. And so because you understand his love and his wisdom and his grace, you will begin to understand how he flows. You begin to understand how he actually operates. And then there's always going to be a twist to God, because you're never actually fully get the whole revelation of him. He's always forever exposing pieces of himself to us. But however, that's the fun part of it, because you get to You get to take in and you get to walk alongside with him as you begin to make yourself and allow him to make you more like him. So my next thoughts would even be just to seek God in your thoughts whenever possible. If this is something that you don't do regularly, or if this is something that you don't that you have not done, or that you don't notice is being done in your life, then I would recommend that you would begin to make those thought patterns become part of you. That you would begin to say, God, I ask for more of you. God, I pray that you would begin to breathe life into me so that I may breathe life into others. You have to begin to start to set into motion the very things that you desire from him to be the very things that he pours into you. And so if that's not something that you're doing at this moment, I strongly encourage you to begin to start to petition God for anything that you need that will help advance you and take you to the next level. And watch how it begins to transform your mind, and watch how it begins to transform you. In the book of Proverbs 28:26, it talks about those who trust themselves are fools, but those who walk in wisdom are kept safe. And that bounces back to the very thing that I was just discussing about when you have wisdom, and when you know that God's wisdom is all that you need, you do not have to fear, you do not have to worry. You can continue to walk straight forward because you know God is going to lead, he's going to guide, he's going to direct, and he's going to protect you. And who wants protection? Everybody desires protection. Everyone desires to be kept. Everyone desires to be held by God. And that is the best part about it, is that when you petition for God's wisdom, anything of his character, you're beginning to be protected. There's a certain hedge of protection that overflows and encamps itself about you, and you begin to move forward, and you do not worry about what other people think or say. You don't care what how other people may feel, because you know that your trust lies in God and God alone, and that is the only thing that matters at this particular moment. Point number 3 would be call your mind into complete obedience and submission to God. Call your mind into complete obedience and submission to God. Now we're going to get real personal, because honestly, I was a person that was not one that was submissive and obedient to God. God would say, Precious, I want you to do this, and Precious would say, let me think about it. No. God would say, Precious, I want you to consider this, and I want you to go make this right. And I would be like, God, did they consider this? Did they make this right? Absolutely not. I will do no such thing. And so I was a very strong woman, a very strong girl. And so for me, weakness was not an option. So I would not bring myself to a place of where I would even need to be one to go and be submissive to someone else. And so to me, I did look at being submissive as a form of being weak, because I was naive in my thinking as to what it means to be submissive to someone. And so because I couldn't be submissive to God, it was hard for me to be submissive to man. And that didn't profit me anything. It actually just prolonged me in a certain process of having to walk things out until I finally got it together. And that was the thing that was hard for me, because had I would have been obedient, submissive back then, or even in the very beginning, then I would have saw how God would have advanced me quicker, how God would have advanced me to another place, into another dimension. However, because I was not prepared and mature mentally as well as physically, I had to stay in a certain place until I learned how to be obedient, until I learned how to be submissive to God. And even now, even to people, you know, I used to get into it with coworkers. I used to say all kind of stuff to my supervisors, all kind of stuff to leadership, and I didn't care what I said to them, because I felt like, you don't care about what you're saying and doing to me. But that wasn't the point. The point was that God was trying to teach me how to bite my tongue, how to come underneath, how to submit, and how to be one that don't have to rebuttal every single thing. When God told me to launch this PurityIsPrecious.com website, the first thing out my mouth was, oh, that's cute, but guess what? Talk to me about it in about 6 months, because I don't have time for that. I was like, God, I'm working on so many other things. I got so many other projects, and I need to focus on these only. And God was like, but did I not just tell you to do this website? And I'm like, well, God, honestly, I don't even think, I said I like the idea of it, but you're talking to the wrong one. You're talking to the wrong daughter. I don't even think that I'm even qualified to sit here and to be one that's going to talk about a purity website. Because, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I know God is eventually going to bring me to this place, but Precious Joy got skeletons in her closet. And I did not feel like I had any authority to be talking about purity and to be talking about things of purity, because I knew where my walk was. I knew the things that I had fell short in. I knew the things that I had made mistakes in. And I knew that I did not measure up in my mindset to what purity should look like and to what purity should even display. However, there are facts about me that actually does point back to me actually being pure. But to me, in my mindset, because of the things that I have done, the mistakes that I have made, some of the errors of my ways, I didn't feel like I had any kind of authority to stand on the platform of purity. And so that's the beautiful thing about it, is that God qualifies you even when you don't think that you're qualified, if you be submissive and obedient to what he's talking about. And so that was one of the things that I had to begin to let saturate within myself, is that I had to be one that would trust God even in this process. And when you're going to walk in obedience and submission, there's a level of trust that has to be there. There's a level that you have to, come out of the need of being even in control. You got to come out of the need of even needing to know what is the next step and what is the next phase and what is the next process. And so because I had to come out of that thing, I had to take off all these different kind of layers of control, these layers of needing to be right, all these different layers of just my mindset, lining my mind up to be one with who God has called me to be one. And I walked into this thing not even knowing where it's going to take off at and what it's going to do and if it's going to take off and where we're going next. I don't know what the next step is. However, I do know that I trust God, and I do know that if he tell me to make the next move, I'm going to make the next move. If I would be honest with you, this one right here, with me sitting here doing this video, God talked to me about this video, and I was like, oh no, no. He said, well, Precious, I need for you to put a face and a personality to what you're talking about. These people need to know what it is, and they need to be able to relate to you. Yeah, you can write blogs all day, but I need for you to put a face and a personality to what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, God, I'm the one that's always used to say things wrong. So I think I should have pen and paper, me personally. At least there I can always edit it, And God was like, I will teach you how to talk. I will teach you what to say, what not to say, when to say it, and how to say it. I just need for you to trust me and to step out on faith. And so that's where we are today. I wouldn't have never have been doing this video. When God told me to do this video, I kind of was like, not sure about it. And then I had another friend that said, maybe you should start doing videos. And I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. And so here we are today. We're doing videos. We're moving forward because I choose to be obedient and I choose to be submissive to God in this season. In Philippians 4:8, it always talks about us thinking on things that are lovely, that are just, that are pure, that are of good report. And when you think on those things, you begin to understand that that's how God's heart is towards you. And so when you know that that's how God's heart is towards you, then you will be okay with being one that will be obedient and submissive to him. When you know that God has a genuineness towards you, you begin to understand that his no's is no's and his yes is yes, but they're not to take anything away. They're not to hurt you anyway. They're more so a protection. And I had to understand and allow God to begin to protect me, because I didn't feel like that I needed protection from anyone. I didn't feel like that people would protect me. I always felt like it was me against the world. And so therefore, because I had that mindset and that frame, that was how I proceeded and did everything in my life. I put God in the same box as what I did with people. And so because I did that, that wasn't cool at all. That was me saying that he was not superior than man. And God is extremely more superior than man. He's excellent in all his ways. And so I had basically placed him in a box of how I did all other people, which was totally unfair to him, which was totally unfair to me, because I shortchanged myself into becoming a person that I could have been years ago. And, I don't regret any of it, because I see where I am today and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm amazed myself. But at the same time, I understand what it is and how I have gotten to where I am today. And so the next thing that I want to talk to you all about, as far as calling your mind into complete obedience and submission to God, is honesty is key. You're going to have to be honest about where you are, where you've been, and whether or not you've been upfront with your relationship with God or not. You can't say that, oh, I am obedient to God, when he just told you to do something last week and you still ain't did it, or you dragging your feet about it. Procrastination is disobedience. It is. Whether we want to try to name it something different, or whether we want to try to act like we got so much going on with kids, with school, with work. If God has told you to do something, there is time for us to do it. So yeah, you have to be honest with yourself and even with your relationship with God about whether or not you've been obedient to him, whether or not you've been submissive to the things that he's calling you to do. I know for me, I struggled with that thing. I mean, it was crazy how strong I was and how strong-minded I was, and I would always rebuttal. I had no problem with telling God no. I had no problem with telling people that I'm not going to do this, or that I don't care, or that, oh well, get over it. I was that person that was very strong, who was what they would really consider to be a rebel. And I think I got a kick out of being a rebel for a long time. And so, but that thing didn't profit me anything. And so I really do encourage you all to be honest enough to talk about where you are with your relationship with God. Be honest enough to even be truthful with you, to see if you have not been honest about whether or not you've been obedient, about whether or not you've been submissive, about whether or not you've been adding small things into your schedule that does not even have to be there, so that you don't have to do what God has told you to do. I mean, we do that. That's normal. We will do things. We will entertain things that we don't even have to even entertain, just for the sake of having to avoid doing something with someone. We do people the same way. We avoid doing things because we don't want to be honest enough to say, hey, I don't feel comfortable with doing this, or hey, I'm afraid of doing this, or hey, I don't know what the outcome of it will be. So we tend to pile little things onto our schedule, or we tend to just try to avoid the person or God as a whole, so that we don't have to do it. And that doesn't validates anything. It just validates that that we need as people to become more strong, and to be more people that will be honest about where we are in our lives, and honest about the things that concerns us. And that's okay. I mean, how else will you grow if you don't verbalize the things that concerns you? And so the next thing that I wanted to talk about, point 4, would be pronounce death over double-mindedness. Point 4 is pronounce death over double-mindedness. And basically what that is that you come to a place where you decide that you will no longer waver back and forth in your mindset. You will no longer be one that's just going to always be fickle in your ways, but you make a decision that says that I'm going to choose to walk this thing out. I'm going to choose to, once I set my mind on something, I'm going to go forth with it, regardless of what happens, regardless of what the outcome is, regardless of what I think is going to be, or regardless of how detrimental I think it may be. Why? Because I trust God, and because I choose to submit under the very things that he has told me to do. And so you're going to have to begin to come up out of that, you're going to have to pronounce death over double-mindedness, because if you don't, it's going to cause you to always be unstable in your ways and in your actions with people, in your ways and in your actions with God, and even in your ways and your actions with yourself. How many times have you said that you were going to do something and yet you never did it because you were unstable? You operated out of a double mind. I'm still operating out of a double mind today, child. I say I'm going to go to the gym every day, and who has went there? Precious ain't going nowhere because Precious is lazy. But Precious don't have a problem with eating what she want to eat, though. And so that's an issue. I mean, why? I look at it, I think I'm just being kind of selfish, because I look at it as if, like, hey, I'm still nicely built. I got some time. But at the end of the day, I'm knocking on 30 in a few months. And so I need to start pulling it together so that when I hit 30, I won't be in for a rude awakening, because all of a sudden my body won't snap back to the way I would like for it to do. And so, I mean, that would be the thing, being double-minded. And even in a time, if I want to go a little bit deeper with this, even in a time when I was really, really, really struggling, mentally and emotionally, there was a time where what was going on in my mind actually reflected throughout my body. For a long time, I was very sick, and I was sick for probably well over a year. And because my mindset was always one that was very envious, it was very revengeful, it was very hateful, and I had a hard time with forgiving, and I had a hard time of letting go when I struggled with memory recall. And that's another thing. Memory recall is a actual factor when it comes down to double mindedness, and we'll go into that. But when I was struggling with my mindset at that time, I had to become one. I became one where I struggled with my body and with my with sickness in my body, and so therefore my body became reflected what my mind was reflecting. And so my mind was double minded, so therefore my body became double minded. I can't tell you how many times a day, and this happened multiple times a day. Right now, how I'm sitting here talking to you all, I'm perfectly healthy, I'm perfectly fine, I have no worries or anything like that. But I would be fine right now, and then 5 minutes later, all of a sudden, I'm completely sick. And this thing happened multiple times a day. I would be healthy one moment, sick the next. I felt like I needed to lay down. I had excruciating headaches. I felt like I wanted to throw up. I was just all of a sudden, there was something that would not correspond right within my body. And then I would feel like I was completely sick. And so what was happening in my mindset was now starting to translate throughout my body. And so that was actually when it started happening in my body, I knew something was wrong. I knew I was treading on dangerous territory at that moment, and I knew that I needed to make a change. But I feel like no one should have to wait until there's something seriously wrong with their body to the fact that they get ready to make a change. If something is not adding up right or something is not connecting properly, it needs to be looked at and dealt with immediately, especially when you're dealing with things internally. And so, and as I even had mentioned previously, I said memory recall is another factor. I think recall and double mindedness work in tandem with each other. They are like they are like buddies, like best friends, because I struggle with memory recall, and I was one that can go way back into history on a relationship that I may have had with someone and tell them why I felt like that they were foul about something. And I would pull up, if we was having a disagreement, I would pull up stuff from way back then. And I think that that was reason because I never dealt with it when it happened back then. I would actually wait until something has now unfolded that has completely upsetted me. And then all of a sudden, here I am, I'm ready to address and confront it. Why? Because I didn't deal with it back then. However, it only made the situation worse because now I done caught this person completely off guard, and now they're devastated because they didn't know I felt this way about them. And and so and now I probably have even severed a relationship even more so than what it would have been if I would have just dealt with the situation back then. But my point is that when you struggle with double mindedness, and memory recall will always have you being double minded in everything. You will always be one that will be looking at someone upside their head. You would always be someone that would say, okay, I think this person is cool today, but then tomorrow I don't know too much about you. Or I think you have the potential to be a great friend, and then the moment they do something that you don't think is right, then all of a sudden you don't feel like that they're good enough to have your friendship. And that was how I was, to be honest with you. So I was double minded. I wavered back and forth in my mind as far as in my relationships. I wavered back and forth in my mind as far as my relationship with God. And I wavered back and forth in my mind in my relationship even with myself, with who I thought I was, who I viewed myself as, the type of person that I thought I was. I mean, I knew that I was a strong woman, but I didn't think that I was that my strength was my strength was not in the proper context that it should have been. And so that was the thing with me. I think that my strength was not where it should have been, where it would have been conducive to help others, and it wouldn't have been conducive to even help myself. And so that was the problem. I think that with me going back and forth with being double-minded, it actually prevented me from stepping out and from venturing into new things and into new paths and to new places that God intended for me to do years ago, all because I couldn't get past what I thought would be the outcome or the solution of it, when it would have been a positive outcome and a positive solution, I'm quite sure. But I just could not seem to bring myself to a place to where I was able to understand, all because I struggled with memory recall. I took stuff from other people's relationship, because I was a friend that was extremely loyal, and I was a friend that was someone that was diehard. I was for you. If I considered you a friend, I was for you. My loyalty went to a completely another level, and so I would take baggage and stuff from other people's relationships into my relationships, and because it happened to them, I would think it would happen to me. So then that made me double-minded even in my own relationships, because once something looked as similar or close to what a friend of mine went through, or what someone else I was close to had went through, then all of a sudden I just something in me triggered, and I would just think that, oh, you just like this person, or oh, you just like that person. But that person's experience wasn't even my experience. Why am I putting someone who's new and that I'm trying to build a relationship with in the same box of an experience that I never even had? It was all based upon being double-minded, and all based upon memory recall from previous relationships. And so I just want you to decide to confront that thing. Confront double-mindedness. Speak death over it. Decree and declare that it will not be part of your life. Decree and declare that it will not operate in you any longer. Decree and declare that you know who you are in Christ, and that you're going to continue to move forward, and that you're going to be one that's going to be one with Him. And then just choose, when you feel yourself being one that's going to be fickle in your ways, or that your mindset is trying to go back and forth and waver, you're going to have to begin to take authority and say, no, this is not what we were planning to do. We're going to stick with the plan, because this is what God's plan is for us. And especially if it's God's plan, do not allow the enemy to talk you about something that God has for you. I'm telling you now, if you're struggling with something, or if you're insecure about something, and you know that it's God that's speaking to you, then I would recommend that you stick with the plan and just walk this thing out. Because the best thing about it is that when you're unfamiliar with what your next is, then you have to allow God to familiarize you as you go along the path and as you walk. And I think that that's what we, pretty much want. You want to be one that God can familiarize as He continues to walk you along the path. And so if God tell you everything now, then child, you would be a mess, because I'm telling you, because you would just already know what the next step is. And I think that that's the best part about it, is that He keeps us on our toes. He keeps us in need of Him. He keeps us always trusting Him, and that actually builds your trust in Him, because you have to trust someone. You can't go through life and decide, oh, I don't trust nobody. And double-mindedness would do that. Double-mindedness would cause you not to trust anyone. Double-mindedness would make you think that everyone is out to get you. Double-mindedness will make you feel as though there is no one that can help you. Double-mindedness will cause all of those things that's unrational, those things that don't even speak life, those things that have no purpose. That's what double-mindedness does. It causes you to actually waver from your purpose, and that's not something that you want to do. So I encourage you to be one that would actually speak death over double-mindedness, and then make an absolute decree and a charge with yourself to not be one to struggle with double-mindedness. And so my final thought, which is my point number 5, would be break the thought patterns of not being worthy or good enough. Once again, number 5 is break the thought patterns of not being worthy or good enough. And what that is that you have to come to a place where you understand that you are more than enough, that you are valuable, that you are worthy, that you have purpose, that God has ordained for you to flourish in this lifetime, and that you are one that is very endearing to God. And you have to come to a place of where if you want to have a mindset that's going to be pure, you have to come to a place to where do you even think that you are deserving of a mindset to be pure? That's the big part right there. Do you even think that you're deserving of it? And I can ask you that all day, and I can even answer it for you. You are deserving to have a mindset to be pure. However, me telling you that is not going to be good enough. It has to be where you recognize it. It has to be where you understand it. It has to be where you desire it for yourself. The desire to have a mindset to be pure is not going to be good enough. You're going to have to translate that desire into an actual will. And once you translate that desire into a will, you'll become unstoppable. But it's going to be something that's going to take time. You're going to have to focus. You're going to have to be one that's going to have to Make sure that you stick along with the course, that you stay along with the path that God has for you. You're going to have to make sure that you are being focused, that you are being one that's being true to you as you go through this process. But as I stated, desire is never good enough. The desire is what sparks it. And you need to have a spark. You need to have something that's going to motivate you and challenge you and encourage you to go forth, to have a mindset to be pure. However, once you get that motivation and that desire and that encouragement, you're going to need to seal the deal with the will. Seal the deal with the will. You're going to have to do that. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself falling back into negative thought patterns, falling back into thoughts that don't speak life, falling back into thoughts that don't call you to your fullest potential. You're going to find yourself not being one that's going to be operating out of the fullness of what God has called you to do, because you can't seem to get your mindset to be one that's pure. And if you have a pure mindset, then that's what's going to advance you. That's what's going to take you to the next level. That's what's going to actually promote you. And that's what God will use to promote you, because now He know that He has your thoughts. And you want God to be able to have full reign in your thoughts. You want Him to be able to operate in and through you as freely and as often as He wants and as often as He desires. And so you're going to have to learn how to know that you are worthy and know that you are good enough to have a mindset that desires to be pure. And then once again, translate that thing into a will. And then you must choose to be one with your thoughts that house the mind of Christ. You're going to have to house the mind of Christ. You're going to have to learn how to develop, how to have thought patterns like Christ. You're going to have to ask God to make His thoughts your thoughts. That you're going to have to ask God to breathe life into you, into a new level, into a new dimension that you never thought was even possible. But now you're going to have to ask Him to make His thoughts your thought patterns, because you want to think like Him, you want to talk like Him, you want to walk like Him, you want to be like Him. Everything about you should desire to be a reflection of who He is. And that's what's going to be the changing factor. That's what's going to be the deciding factor. That's what's going to be the thing that's going to actually promote you to the next level, because you have now embraced a characteristic of Him. And once you begin to embrace, understand, and learn more about God and His characteristics, then all of a sudden you will begin to embrace them and enhance them. And then there's going to be a beauty that's going to overflow and overshadow you like never before, because now you are actually being a reflection of who He is. When you look in the mirror, you're going to begin to see Christ within you. You're going to be able to see how you're being transformed and how the transformation is now becoming to unravel and unfold right before you, because you recognize that you are his own. You're His son and you're His daughter. And that's such a complete honor when you think about it. That's a complete honor to be a son or a daughter of God. And once you begin to adapt His thought patterns, then that's when you begin to come into a place of true authenticity within Him. And I think that that's one of the biggest things. We're all on this pursuit of trying to understand who we are. We're all on this pursuit of trying to be one with God. We're all on this pursuit of trying to be one that's going to walk and please Him in every way. And once you begin to come to a place of understanding His characteristics, understanding His mindset, and understanding how He thinks, you're going to find yourself being one with Him in ways that you never even thought or knew was even imaginable. And so number 5, as I stated, was break the thought patterns of not being worthy or good enough. You are definitely worthy. You are definitely good enough. And you are more than enough. And that is one thing that you're going to have to embrace and take into consideration at this moment. I want you to love yourself enough to want to develop a mindset that desires to be healed. And once you develop that type of a mindset, then trust me when I tell you, you're going to be unstoppable in every way. You're not going to care what other people say or what other people think. You're going to be one that's only going to move to the beat and to the drum of what God has to say about you and your life. And so if there's anything else, if you have not taken anything else that I have said or talked about today, this is the very thing. Choose to be one that will be whole in your mindset, and that will be whole in your emotions, and that will be whole in every way, so that you can be pure before God, so that you can stand and that you can decree and declare He is good for all people, and that you will begin one to be and that you will be one that will begin to understand that with him all things are possible. That's the beauty of it. All things are possible. So that's all I have, actually. I'm going to wrap it up here. I thank you all for tuning in. And once again, my name is Precious Joy. I am the founder of Purity is Precious, and my website is www.purityisprecious.com. I'm going to be doing more videos and more blogs, and I just hope that this one blesses you. I hope that you will begin to find, you know, what it is that you really do desire in life, and that God will begin to pour and bless you in ways that you never knew was even imaginable. I speak blessings and I pronounce love and grace and over you in Jesus' name. Have a nice one.